McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
Going with a kick to full forward, Cloak, not quite, Blair, Collingwood back in front.
The seed, he delays the give, Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! Poor fans can't bear to watch. They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm is erupted. Oh, who else? McDonald.
Well, there's two very, what were we going to say, high priority candidates as the teams that crept the bed the most, either this round or this season, or both, depending on the team we're talking about. There's definitely a fan base that might be feeling down in the Blues as we speak. Richmond is going storming into the finals. Are they one of the best teams coming in? Or is it maybe some other team that also made quite the statement? And shout out to Brisbane for once again proving that you can't do a damn thing when it comes to important games on your schedule. Finals, might not be the best, but of course, we'll get to that one next week with our special guest. We'll get a little bit more insight as we get towards the end of the show. But ladies and gentlemen, the regular season's over. It flew by once again. It happens every single year that it feels like maybe the couple in first rounds was like, okay, this is going to be great. And then we blink and the season's over. But at the least, we're on to finals footy. And I think the best thing to happen this round, Donnie, to me, is that no more Giants footy for months and months and months. Because once again, they found a way to make me hurt. Frio. Good game. GWS. Well, at least we have a coach now, too, so we're definitely going to have to talk about that one. And we're going to play a little bit of a game. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into our Round 23 Breakdown Show. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the best in the business, Coach Donnie. And, Coach, your Sydney Swans missed out number 2 by some tiny, tiny margins. But also, your fan base certainly is not reeling about that. How are we feeling heading into finals?
Well, it depends on who you talk to in some of our fan bases. There are a few that are a little filthy that they didn't get second place. That the North Melbourne game was less than impressive. They didn't get the percentage, and they let Melbourne kind of stay in it, and then Melbourne's dismantling of Brisbane Lions made it very, very difficult for the Swans going into that final game. But I'll do credit to St. Kilda. I think the St. Kilda that Sydney played was much more of the St. Kilda team that played early in the year. Tough, contested, hard footy. Sydney survives that game. I'm not like some that I'm worried, shall we say, going into the finals of the lackluster. I think that was a good fashion footy game. And as I told a few, I said, I like the test. I like to test a team before the finals because finals footy is hot, it is heavy, and it is hard. So if you get a tough game just before finals, you get a bye week to kind of let everybody settle, especially little injuries here or there they can get a rest. They can let everybody and be cherry ripe come that game against the Melbourne Demons at the MCG, which as I talked to Ross a little bit earlier, I'm not as scared of that game as some people think that Sydney fans should be. I'm a little more optimistic, shall we say, that I think Sydney goes into that game a little bit more on even ground than some people are giving them credit for, and I like that. I think it's good to doubt the Sydney team because I think they've played better when they've been told they can't do it.
Yeah, especially if you want to talk about the first time they played Melbourne this season. Ooh, that was a damn good game, especially if you're a Sydney supporter. And all I gotta say is, if we're talking about contested, or when it comes to finals footy and some stats and trying to play close games, certainly looks like Collingwood's on their way to a grand final appearance because damn, they're just good at winning one-score games. I think they're now. I think that was number 11. I think they're now. Mm-hmm. Wait, no, sorry.
11 one-score game wins this season.
Yep, that's right. How 11? That is an incredible number, especially when your overall club record is and what was it? I think they won 15 games.
It was something to that effect.
All right, point being,
let's just say a majority of their wins were one-score games. They were 16-6 this season, so there was only 5 games this season that they won by more than a goal. 5 games.
Oh man,
or two,
I'm still
more than
feeling...
2. It was something that it's an insane. Yeah. It's an insane stat.
Nonetheless, we all know that Collingwood fans have to have the highest blood pressure in the entire league. Because oh boy, they certainly like to play it close, shall we say? But I'm excited. We got some good stuff coming at you guys with this one, and I'm extremely excited for the show. For the AFL 2022 finals preview, we're going to bring in next week because our guest is going to be incredible, especially with some of the stuff we get to talk about. It's going to be that much better. We'll give you another hint. That this person was hypnotized on their radio show with very recently.
Boy!
Now that's something we're gonna have to give a talk about. But before we get into our overreaction for this round, ladies and gentlemen, first things first, we're going to throw on over to Coach for a little bit of Hess's headlines.
All right, and some dynamic headlines this week because what a round of footy. So we start off D's trounce Lions as Lions limp into the finals, and I kind of stated it earlier. I don't, as I was telling Ross before we got on, I don't like the way the Lions are coming into the finals right now. They got
me extremely worried.
And unfortunately, they aren't getting much better when it comes to their matchup with getting the almighty Richmond Tigers in that first round. So if I'm a Lions fan, I'm thoroughly concerned. It may be at the GABA, but I'm thoroughly concerned that your team is potentially on the precipice of again falling out of a finals with no wins. So we jump to it. Freo and Sydney both have less than convincing wins to head into finals. Fremantle, GWS threw the kitchen sink at Fremantle in this game and almost pulled an upset that nobody could have saw. But Fremantle again did just enough to get themselves over the line to get the win, and to kind of rip the hearts out of GWS's season and end it in cruel fashion. Unfortunately, a little bit the way like GWS's season has been, and I was saying it also off mic when it came to the Sydney Swans games. It was a less than impressive win. It was only 14, but that was more of the St. Kilda that I saw earlier in the season. A much rougher, tougher, more contested, much more competitive team in the Saints, which I honestly, as a Swans fan, I liked. I enjoyed the Swans getting tested because I think it actually preps them for finals footy a lot better than say a cupcake game against the West Coast Eagles where they win by 70. No, that's not a shot at Geelong. That's just a personal opinion there. Bulldogs get a big win in Tassie to put pressure on the Blues who play later. I'm not gonna. I mean, we all know how it turned out, but plain and simply, the Doggies needed to win just to make the Blues have to win. That was the biggest topic, and I remember when we turned on our stream, which I don't think we'll completely talk about either, since that had a less than glorious situation.
The ending was not ideal. Well, of course, real quick, thank you guys if you came in and joined the stream. It was a lot of fun.
And we do apologize for it crapping out right in the middle.
Luckily, it's near the end, but we definitely missed one of the best parts about the game because what happens is,
unfortunately,
we get start of the fourth quarter, and then it just cuts out. The Zoom, the call we were on ends, and I was like, "Oh boy!" Then I look, "Oh, the internet's out, fantastic!" And then you want to know what happens? Admittedly, I told Donnie this. I'll take the L because it was a long day of work on Saturday, and I go outside to restart the router, and then I wake up in the morning next to the router.
all I remember is, and this is full-fledged truth. I am going to pull up my text message. I think I texted him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before I got a response at 8 in the morning. And my first text message was, let's see, 2:39 a.m. So it was just before. It was just after. I said, "Let me know when we're coming back." And then I was keeping him updated on how the Collingwood game was going because I'll literally, I went, Collingwood is coming, 11 points. Make it 5 points. Collingwood in front, 2 exclamation points. Want to just call it a night. Mate, you got your internet back? Then I let him know that the Swans won.
I felt so bad when I woke up. I was like, "Oh."
Well, and the funniest part about this text stream is I've literally got the Zoom up almost most of the time because I'm waiting for him to come back, and I'm sitting here. I've got the Swans game still on because the Collingwood game had already ended, and I'm sitting here going, "Do I turn my Zoom off because I'm not getting any response?" And I was like, so eventually I texted in the matchup for the finals because I had seen it, and I was just like, "Screw it, I'm done." And then the next text message is probably the funniest out of them all because for those of you that have paid attention, is I made the grand final in our
not only did he make it, we have a king. And I for the second straight year I have pipped the best person in the home and away, and he was filthy. That's just safe to say. I got a few very angry, angry, and I think mocking. The Twitter group chat was pretty funny too.
Yeah, he was filthy a little bit. So I texted him a picture of the final score, which I was pretty sure was the final score, and I put, "Mate, I think I did it again," with the brain blown emoji. So, and that's before, and then he finally responds back the next morning. So it was a very interesting, probably about 3 hours there where I'm sitting here going, dude, I'm watching the Swans game. I'm keeping an eye to see if he's ever going to come back. I'm sitting on my Zoom, and I eventually turned my computer out. I'm like, he's not coming back.
My body had different intentions.
We're midway through the fourth quarter. I'm like, there's no way he's coming back. So I eventually turned off my computer, which I felt was somewhat of a jinx because that's when St. Kilda started to kind of come back and give the fear of God into many of the Swans fans. There are less fingernails on many Swans fans about halfway through that fourth quarter when it was only an 8-point game. So it was very interesting. But so we apologize for that. It's the only bad part about doing in over the internet show sometimes is when the internet craps out. There's not much you can do about it. So
it's that. And also, man, apparently my body was just ready. It was like, "Oh, you're sitting down? Nah, you're gone."
But you got to enjoy it. It's the life of the American footy fan for sure. I know I've done that before. I've done that before. I kid you not. My wife still messes with me all the time because I'll be watching a footy game over the weekend, and I'll have gotten up early and I fall asleep in the middle of the second quarter and I wake up and the game's over and I miss all of it.
Yep.
And so the next morning she looks at me and she goes, "You have a nice nap?" And I went, so now I got to watch it all. So now I got to find where I stopped and watch it all over again. So it's what you deal with. So let's finish the headlines. Collingwood thriller dashes Blues finals, putting Dogs into the 8, and another incredible win by the Collingwood Magpies. Jamie Elliott, you star again.
Jamie freaking Elliott, dude.
Well, somebody said his new nickname around the club is Iceman because he never misses. He's got ice in his veins. So that I thought was pretty good.
Okay.
And then
a little bit of Justin Tucker.
And the last one, I'm gonna broach this subject, and I'm hoping we can do it quickly. Bombers' embarrassment continues as they fire Rutten after embarrassing loss to end the season. Plain and simply, ladies and gentlemen, I am filthy over this. Truck deserved so much better. The Essendon Football Club's arrogance is absolutely baffling to me. You got what you deserved. Clarkson didn't come there. I'm sorry. I'm going to repeat what I said in the tweet. Sucked in, Essendon. Your board is what screwed you. It is not. It is not your club. Your board has screwed your club for a long period of time, and they're continuing to bugger this thing up with the utter ignorance and arrogance that is the new people running your club. It is embarrassing right now, and it's frustrating as all get out because this is a good list that's got a lot of talent. Yeah, and right now, it's not the footy team that's screwing it up. It's the board.
Positive thing is that That's not going to be the last time we crap on them during the show, because just you wait. They're going to be coming up in the later segment, so we get to revisit that all over again. Truck, I'm so sorry, but at least greener pastures ahead for him, because he's not going to be tethered to the horrible club known as Essendon. Well, it sucks because, obviously we'll get into it in a second. It's not necessarily the whole club, but the board. Oh, the board needs some work. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on ahead to our overreactions. And for those that don't know how this segment works, I got 3 statements for Coach Donnie, and it's up to him to determine whether this statement is an overreaction or if there's actually some truth in it. And for the last time in the regular season, we are going to do this. And one of the first things we need to talk about is, like I was saying earlier in the intro, that there's a couple teams that made big statements. So we'll see which one made the biggest, because Donnie, statement number 1, Richmond made the biggest statement this round out of any team heading into finals.
I'm sketchy on this. I think this is an overreaction, because honestly, if you talk to most footy journalists, it was what Melbourne did to Brisbane at the Gabba. They utterly and completely embarrassed the Lions on their home patch, and just before finals, absolutely tearing them apart. Because it's another finals team, it looks even more impressive than it already was. So I think that's the way you gotta look at it, is that's the most impressive game, because Richmond didn't exactly play a world beater. They played an Essendon team that's in a ton of turmoil. There's no way those players were completely focused. So putting up 141 points on Essendon, all due respect, that's not really that impressive. People can do it, and people have done it. So I'll say overreaction. I think the D's win over Brisbane was much more the impressive win of this round.
And it's tough to be a Lions fan, because one stat I want to give you is that over the course of the year, Brisbane played against a now finals team 8 times. Donnie, they finished with a record against those teams of 3-5. Can you guess the 3 teams that they beat?
Oh boy, I'm trying to think of who are the 3 teams that they beat without cheating here. Or should I just cheat?
Where's the fun?
Rich, so we're talking Brisbane. The Western Bulldogs, I think, might be one.
There's
of them.
one.
Yep.
There's one. Yep. We'll figure it out.
Sydney, because they beat Sydney earlier in the season when Sydney utterly stepped on their own feet the entire time. And Collingwood, or was that a win? I don't think so. God, Donnie, seriously, you should know this. You watch almost all of these games. Come on. Yep, Collingwood, because they beat Collingwood.
There you go.
Collingwood
there you
early
go.
in
You
April.
got 3.
I knew it was. I thought it was Collingwood, because I think it was that loss that helped propel them early in the season. Of course, so
they lost to Melbourne twice. They lost to Freo, and they lost to Geelong as well. So. You know what? Not the best when it comes to going against these final teams. Also, sorry, they lost to Richmond in a fairly close game as well. I think that was a 7-point margin in that one at the MCG. So, losing to decent teams, but also they cannot come up clutch to save their season. In fact, they're going to have to come up clutch now, because they get bumped to out of the top 4. They get a 1-game elimination, and it's not looking great. Of course, we'll get into the finals preview and our predictions next week. I'm definitely going to want to catch that one. But going to statement number 2 now, Donnie, is that Port Adelaide's win in the showdown is why Ken Hinkley is still going to be their coach next season. We have a few prongs in there that we got to go over.
This is one of those you would think it was a helper. I think the board reined Kashi in a little bit. I think the board didn't want to have to try to pay Hinkley's severance pay if they fired him. So honestly, I think this is an overreaction. I think he's had the job because the players love him. the issue that they're running into is that some of the supporters have lost faith in him.
Mm-hmm.
And again, whether this is fully on the fact of performance or if it's a little bit on the fact that SA people really have never really fell in love with Hinkley at Port. Port fans have always they've arm extended him.
I was going to say birthplace.
At arm's length. Yeah. So we'll have to see. He's one of those that next year he comes in with one of the hottest seats because, like I said, I think the first 6 games are going to be a make or break for him. Mm-hmm. He's got to be 4-2, 5-1, 6-0 after the first 6 games. If he's 3-3, maybe, but if he's 2-4, 1-5, or 0-6, he's done. And I hate saying that. I never like when coaches get fired in the middle of the season, but he's going to be on a short leash. He's basically going to be on win or you're out type of leash. I don't think they can afford to let him stay as the coach of the footy club and bomb another season out. I mean, this is the first time they've missed the finals in the last 3 seasons. So it's not like this is a horrible club. They had a bad
last
start
time
to the
they made
season.
to the preliminary finals too, right?
2 years in a row. 2
Yeah.
years in a row, they made it to the preliminary finals. So it's not like this is a bad club. They had a bad start to the season, and it tanked them. It was an anvil around their neck the entire season.
Well, it was a bad start that also wasn't completely maybe Hinkley's fault or the team's fault. They were plagued by a big old injury bug, probably the biggest bug we've seen all year.
But unfortunately, as the head coach, it doesn't matter. You've got to figure it out. Sometimes it is a ruthless business. Unfortunately, sometimes
you're missing one of the best offensive players in the league. You're missing one of the best defensive players in the league, and you're missing some other pieces there. It's a tough job for anyone. But I still believe in what you've been saying the last couple rounds is that Hinkley's going to be on a very short leash next season. But also, I think that here, early 2023 preview is that Port Adelaide's going to find their way back into finals footy, and so we'll put that right there.
It'll be interesting. It'll be really, really interesting. I think next year's already got some intrigue for me because Ken Culling would do it again. No matter what happens in the finals this year, Ken Culling would repeat what they did, because sometimes the second season of a coach, sometimes people figure you out, and when they figure you out, you don't play as well. Like I think that's been Sydney's bugaboo a little bit this year, is because last year they slipped up on people because nobody expected Sydney to go from 16th or 15th to 7th or 6th last year. So this year it was a little bit tougher sledding. It wasn't as easy as it was at times last year when they were putting 100 points up on everybody, it seemed like, for the first 8 rounds of the season last year. So it's kind of the same thing with this year's. Next year, will Craig McRae's style be figured out? And will they have the same success? Because this is a hard recipe to continue to do and stay successful, because it's a disaster recipe that can go sideways quickly. So I look at Collingwood as one of those teams that are they a 1-year wonder? Did they catch the rocket, and next year are they gonna? I mean, is the rocket going to explode underneath them and they're going to fall right back down to the bottom? We'll have to see.
The chances of that are probably pretty high. But if I had to root for one thing next year, besides GWS winning the grand final, I would root for Collingwood. Yeah, so I have to. Come on now. As improbable as it is, I'm still going to root for that. But if I had to root for one thing besides that, it's Collingwood having another insane 10-game-plus winning streak with them winning most of these games by 1 score or less, because it's going to piss so many people off, and that's all I want, because I'm a horrible person at the end of the day, I guess. I just want chaos. I want people just being so angry at Collingwood for somehow winning these games, because that's been some of the most entertaining things to me, is the non-Collingwood fans getting so riled up over Collingwood winning footy games, especially
you
Carlton.
You need to make a new footy shirt. Cross your fingers for chaos.
Fingers crossed for chaos. Yes, sir.
Fingers
I'll do
crossed
that
for
one
chaos.
too. Another Collingwood-centric shirt, apparently, because, of course, or the best one, I think, right now is one I'm wearing. You can't see the back because I am facing the screen, but, of course, it has a depiction of the greatest American footy player of all time and the greatest American Aussie footy player of all time, Mason Cox. Of course, he takes center stage on this t-shirt because you guys know for a fact, if you've been watching this show for any bit of time, I won't say we because I don't need to necessarily I'm not going to point Donnie to being a proud member of this group because I definitely am. I love Big Cox, and I proudly wear the helmet garments. But speaking about Collingwood, the team they beat, let's talk about them because statement number 3, Donnie, Carlton was the most disappointing team out of anyone this season.
Oh man, that is a wide swath there.
There's a few teams we could put on there. Even the finals team we could still put on there, which is the funny part.
Well, if you roll everything that Carlton had this year, it is hard not to sneak them into that category because of the fact that
10 games into the season, being in top 4 spot,
and they were in the 8 for every round except the last one. In the 8 for every round except the last
that
round.
Sucks.
It is literally the biggest tease ever when it came to Carlton this year. But honestly, for me the most disappointing team this year was Essendon. And again, maybe I fell for the hype train last year. I'll raise my hand. I fell for it.
Oh, I'll raise my hand with you, buddy. We were both there.
I honestly saw what happened last year, and I thought it's only going to go up. They found their game style. It's aggressive, it's risky, but it'll work, and they find ways. And it imploded on itself this year, and imploded in itself in spectacular fashion. And then to add to it too, you have all the drama that is the board in the last two rounds. So Carlton, just because of the way it went, you could say, but honestly, my most disappointing team is the Essendon Bombers, because this was a team that I honestly thought I had penciled in at finals at the start of the year because I thought they're only going to go up. There's no way they regress.
Well, they went way.
Boy, was I wrong.
Oh man. Well, if I had to put 3 teams up there, I'm definitely putting Essendon up there. I'm putting Carlton up there, and obviously I'm disappointed in GWS, but
Port Adelaide.
I
it's
can't
hard not
put
to say Port Adelaide.
I call this a hot take though, especially because I'm going to give you a little bit of taste of our finals predictions. I don't think the Doggies make it out of the first round. They just barely, by the skin of their teeth, make it into the 8 after competing in the grand final last year. I think the Doggies have to be in the conversation for one of the most disappointing teams, especially after what's going to happen in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, you kind of the finals appearances kind of paper over cracks, and I said it on the stream. I said honestly, if you want to go with the 8 best teams in the finals, Carlton should probably be there instead of the Doggies. Like
they beat the Doggies.
100% honest, the Doggies probably don't deserve to be there. And again, Doggies fans, this is no disrespect to you. This is plain and simply form, how you've been playing, and how this season turned out.
And how horrible your defense is.
You backed in. Literally, this was like you backing up and you fell in a hole, and it happened to be the playoffs. That's literally the way it went. Do you deserve to be there? Probably not. Your overall structure, you were not a consistent team. You were outside of the 8 for a good chunk of that second half of the season. You backed in. Again, no disrespect. You're there. Who knows? Of the 8 teams that are there, you're the one team that everybody is doubting. You're the one team that everybody's going, well, if Carlton didn't stuff themselves, Carlton would be there, not you. So, it's hard. You make a good case for that. You can say a good case for Port Adelaide too, because again, a team that's made 2 consecutive preliminary finals doesn't make finals. Again,
I guess I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
And that's what I've heard some people say is because of the injuries. But again,
they need to be in the conversation.
Every team has injuries, and there's teams that had more injuries. Carlton had more injuries, yet they were in the top 8 most of the year. So, yeah. So
put them in the conversation. I don't think I'm gonna crown them as that. It definitely Essendon though.
And it's massively an opinion too, because it's all on what is your description of a disappointment? Because there's some people could even say that a team like Brisbane is a disappointment because they finished 5th instead of in the top 4. So what is your definition of disappointment is really kind of gonna structure how you did it. Like there's some people I know would probably say the West Coast Eagles was a disappointment. Oh, I mean, I remember at the start of the season. I remember at the start of the season, didn't I say, Ross? I said, I'm worried this team is going to be down near the bottom because I didn't like the way they entered the season. And I remember in my discussion with Jude Bolton, I said the same thing. And he kind of looked at me and went, you're right. Because I said, I didn't like the way that their season started. They had all those COVID issues. Darling had all the drama with the vaccination thing, which eventually found out. And just, they had so many injuries. And there was no cohesion going into that camp to start the training camp to start the season. And Heidelberg, it bombed out early in the season and it never, ever had a chance. And so,
well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a crazy statement for you guys. Donnie gets it right once again. I've been saying this. I have to say it pretty much every round because he knows his footy. And that's why I'm just honored to be a voice that guides him through this. I'm here for structure. And if you want real analysis, you talk to Donnie because, he's right way more often than I am. But one thing, at least we were both wrong on Essendon.
I do get things wrong. I had Port Adelaide and Essendon in the finals this year, so stuff me on that one.
You want still a lot of people that did that. I will just say that I was riding the Sydney train. I think actually it was between Geelong and Sydney for me being the flag winner for this year at the beginning of the season. So
I think you're right. So
I think we're still going to get close. You know, I could get everything wrong, Donnie, literally every detail about the season wrong. As long as I get the grand final winner right, who cares? Because that's all that matters, apparently. But I think it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have a lot of fun, especially next week, especially when we get the opinion. I definitely almost just said it, but we'll save that the reveal for later in the show. But the opinion of this person that we're going to have, because his opinion really, really matters for some of these finals teams because he's going to know what he's talking about because he has a bit of a tie to them. I think that's what I'm going to do. Just my hints are going to be getting closer and closer until we reveal who it is. But that's going to do it for our overreactions for round 23 of the AFL season. Do you think Carlton is the most disappointing team this year? Did Coach Hinckley save his job by winning the showdown? And did Richmond make the biggest statement of any finals team this round? The only thing I am disappointed in when it comes to one of these teams is Port Adelaide. You guys should have just sent it. Should have just sent down the prison bars. You had one chance. You biffed it. You had this chance to wear the prison bars and essentially face no repercussion except Collingwood getting a little pissy like they typically do when anyone else wears black and white. Oh, no. They must really hate Charlie Chaplin because black and white is his thing. All right. So, where was the lawsuits back then? Oh, jeez, guys.
Got some more breaking news, and I know it won't be breaking by the time this episode comes out. Isaac Rankin has officially requested a trade from the Gold Coast to the Adelaide Football Club.
Oh, damn. He's
chosen his South Australian team as the Adelaide Football Club. So the Crows have a dynamic forward that wants to come play for the Crows. So it's very interesting to see how this goes. So
Crows fans, have fun.
Yep.
You might finish in the top 12 now.
We'll have to see. It's an interesting one, even though I agree with some, though. I don't think they really needed forward depth. I think they really needed some more midfielders to kind of balance out their midfield. But we'll see.
But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have a guy like this. Jeez, that's fun. We're going to be talking about that one a little bit for sure. But ladies and gentlemen, before we get to what the blink for this round, it's time to talk over not some big coaching news that kind of just hit us out of nowhere. If you're the majority of people there. But before we get to that, it's time to play a little bit of a game because one thing that we all like to do. A little bit of word association. That always fun. Just think right off the bat, first thing that comes to your head. So we're going to be putting Coach Donnie to the test here. We're playing a little bit of word association for games regarding any action for round 23 or hell, we'll just say the regular season as a whole. So, Donnie, are you ready?
I am always ready. Let's go.
Of course he is. And ladies and gentlemen, hope you're ready, because please feel free to play with us here. When I say these words, go ahead, write it down. Hit us up on our socials. You can find us at Fourth and Long Media on both Instagram and Twitter. You can find Coach Johnny and Coach Has40 on both platforms as well. Or just go ahead, drop your answers in the comments below on YouTube. You guys always keep those interesting and fun, and I freaking love you for that one. But of course, word association. All this is that I'm gonna say a word, and you're just gonna say the first. So we're gonna relate this to any team, player, situation, coach. We're gonna keep it AFL theme. So first AFL thing that pops in your head when I say this word, go ahead, jot that down.
Okay.
Word number 1, ugly.
Bombers' handling of Rutten.
Yeah. Now that's the one that will go without saying. Hell, ugly might just be a compliment given the words that you can use for that one. Number 2, terrific.
The footy. This entire season, I agree with what Lee Montagna said. It's hard not to argue. This is one of the best home and away seasons that has been. There was so much intrigue going into last year. So I think this has been a terrific home and away season for the footy this year.
I love that. I really do like that. I can't wait to take a look at our season wind down, essentially, and take a look at some of the giant moments we had historically, or even just during the season. There were tons that we can go over. It's going to be a lot of fun. Might just have to do a little fan tournament of the. I mean, I guess I'm taking a little bit of credit from what was this from 7 AFL. Because they're doing like all-time greatest moments. I think they're doing like a big old tournament over there on Twitter. We'll do one for the season. We'll have our own for that, and it'll be a good time. Word number 3 is scary.
Oh, it's hard not to say this, but Geelong's form for the longest time this season has been scary. They for a team that for the longest time was known as that kick down the mark, very slow, structured ball control team, they have become a quick, dynamic offensive football team that, I mean, you've got a 4 to 5 headed monster up forward when you've got Cameron, you've got Hawkins, you've got Stengel, you've got Close, you've got Brian Myers, you've got Gary Rowan, and then you rotate some of their middies like Cam Guthrie and Isaac Smith and Mitch Duncan. They're so loaded. They are scary when they are on. And I almost agree is you're going to need an all-time perfect performance to knock out Geelong this year. They're going to be a tough team to beat to get to or to win a grand final.
Right. It's a brand new identity of a team, really. And this is something that they made very, very clear in their first game of footy this season, when they're a team that it looked like they were sprinting the whole time, when this is typically a team that kind of jogs a marathon, that's still going to dominate you, but they're dominating a whole different way. But they can still do the kick market and slow the pace down and still kill you there, which is how do you do that one? Also, another thing that scary, I'll just say, is how the West Coast Eagles looked, but just in the opposite sense of the vein.
That's very true. That's very true. You can even throw the North Melbourne Roos in there for a bit.
Oh, I love them, though. They're hating on too much, so I'll give them a little bit of clarity. Hey, they got Clarko, so anything's possible. Just wait. That's not the only time we're going to be mentioning his name there. Wait till what the blank. But the next word we're going to go with is dominating.
Well, I'm going to throw a curveball because I'm going to bring it up a little bit more. The Clarko coverage to North has been dominating, surprisingly, for such an amazing round, and for everything that kind of happened with North Melbourne. There's a dominating feel that this was not a bad weekend for the North Melbourne Roos, even though they did not play well in their final game of the regular season. The coverage of Clarko was insane. Like it was dominating every AFL thing, every AFL Instagram, every AFL Twitter. I mean, it was Clarko. Okay, we got a couple of rounds of footy. Clarko. So it was insane when he announced all the way to Saturday until we really had some of the big game. I mean, we had the quick little foray of the Brisbane Melbourne game. But then it was still Clarko. It was absolutely insane. So it was the dominating coverage of Clarko picking North Melbourne, which I'm okay with, because North Melbourne deserved this. Like, as I said, and
Give them their spotlight.
We in our last episode, I said my ultimate, the way I would like it is I would like Clarko there. I think that would be the best, not only for the league, but just for everybody involved, because I think this brings a marquee name to the North Melbourne Football Club, and it now potentially makes North Melbourne a destination club for some experienced players that I think can really help nurture the young talent at the North Melbourne. I mean, right now, last time I heard, Bobby Hill from the St. Kilda Saints is being discussed, Jack Gunston from the Hawthorn Hawks, and there may be even a couple others. They're older players that are probably not going to stay with their club, that could find their way to North Melbourne, get a nice little paycheck, and be able to develop some young players and still get a couple of seasons to help Clarko kind of bridge until the youngsters are ready to explode.
That will certainly be a move right there. I love that. I mean, North deserves a little bit, and this really felt like you remember probably it feels like a lifetime ago at this point. So even I feel old when thinking about this one. So I can't imagine what you feel, Daniel fans. I'm just totally playing with you. We love you, still young. But when LeBron James, the decision, giant ESPN thing, where like seriously he announced he was taking his talents to South Beach. It blew up. That was over everywhere. It really kind of felt like that, because there's this bit of anxiety in the air. It's like the decision, but for footy, I mean, Clark, this is a big thing. This is a big deal, and I don't think. Well, maybe I'll say that for a little bit, because I'm not sure if this move is great as all these North fans make it sound to be. Of course, I'm going to give them their time, because this is probably the most optimism they've had for a while. But it might just be optimism. But our last word we're going to go for, and I cheated. Well, I don't know if I cheat. This is my game. I make the rules. We're going to do a statement. We're doing 3 words instead of 1 word when we're right here for this last one, because give me more.
I'm going to throw a tiny bit of a curveball. This may be a men's competition podcast, but I'm going to throw in some women here. Ooh. Give me more of the AFLW. I cannot wait. We have all 18 teams now in the competition. There will be 9 games. As I was telling Ross before we hopped onto the mic, I'm going to be up to my ears in footy for the next month after this week, because we'll have 9 AFLW games plus all the men's finals. So I'll have 2 podcasts that I will be doing over the next month or so. So it's going to be fascinating for me, but give me more. I cannot wait. More footy. AFLW starts this week. For those of you that doubt it, watch it. It is a great product. It may not be what you expect, but it's a different game and it's a lot of fun. And there are some superstar players in this league that you are going to enjoy barracking for. So give me more, AFLW fans. Give me more AFLW. Carn the Swannies, first ever Swans game this week. Playing St. Kilda, North Sydney Oval. Cannot wait.
Dude, you're definitely gonna have a full slate there for the next handful of days and weeks. It's gonna be fun. But if anyone can handle it, it's definitely you, my friend. But that's our word association game we're going to be playing today. Of course, like I said, drop your answers. Hit us up over on our socials. Drop them in the comments. We'd love to see what teams come to your head and see what kind of similarities we have between, Coach Johnny, myself, and from what you guys have as well. But before we get to what the blanket, talk a little bit more of the Clarko situation, and maybe some more of the coaching situation, Essendon. Oh, there's just so much to go into. It's horrible, but amazing at the same time, because it's so much fun to talk about. And I just thank God that I am not an Essendon fan or a North fan. I'm still stuck with GWS, but hell, the organization's put together a lot stronger than Essendon, even though that's not saying a whole lot. But speaking about GWS, we have our guy, because the next head coach of the GWS Football Club is going to be former Richmond assistant Adam Kingsley. He's going to be taking over, and this one kind of came out of left field for us to use a baseball term on a footy show. So there's that American perspective we're going to be putting in here as well. But this Is this the right move? And how long do you think it's going to take GWS to get back to finals footing?
It's very interesting because I think when we last discussed the number one guy that everybody was talking about was Adam Uze, the assistant from the Melbourne Demons, and for some this came out of the proverbial left field. This came out of nowhere. But when I heard Kingsley's CV, I mean, he's been under at least 2 or 3 clubs that have had premiership. He's been an assistant coach he's been coaching for 16 years. So he has put in the hours. He has put in the time. He's been under Damian Hardwick. He's coached in he's helped coach several flags. And
players love him. They've always, there's just, everything's just positive news about loving to play for this guy.
Yep.
And especially with the team culture, that's a Giants kind of, they kind of have a few stars going on. And it seems like this guy's going to help be able to rein them in. Maybe he's the guy for Toby Green.
We'll really have to see again. It's all right now. It's all on paper. We really don't know. And again, we don't know what the list changes are going to be over the off season. I mean, we pretty much know GWS has got to shed somewhere around $1 million in cap space. So most likely you're looking at it. Bobby Hill, Hopper, are gone, at least for sure. After that, we just don't know. Does Lockie Whitfield find his way out? Who moves and to where? And then what do they get in return? There's still a ton of things to play out. I don't think it's as bad as some people think it is. I think it will slim down the superstar. You can maybe bring in some more grunt to the team, maybe get a little bit more grit. And I think it may change GWS's things. And you bring in a coach that, I mean, he knows how to build. He gets to develop with some of the younger stars in this team. So I think this is a great hire. Again, as they kind of said, it's the recycled coaching hires that you get in some of the professional sports, especially over here. Sometimes it's infuriating because I think there's a lot of times a good assistant coach, just give them a chance. Give them a shot to do it. If they bomb out, at least you gave them a chance. If you never give them a chance, you're never going to know whether they can do it or not. So I think this is a great hire by GWS. It's a little bit of a different thing. I like that they waited and didn't announce it till after the regular season, the home and away, it was over, because I hate when, as much as the Clarko announcement was great for North Melbourne, it did take away a little bit from this last game of the home and away series. Again, maybe it's because Clarko wanted to end it and Essendon didn't help by making all the drama that it did. So, and I hate to roll that whole thing together, but I appreciate that GWS did this. They did it in a week where there's nothing to talk about unless you want to talk finals. And I don't like when these footy shows just talk nothing but the finals for a week, for 2 weeks.
Gets the
analysis, you can only analyze the game so many times, and especially when you have the AFLW coming up here, where you've got topics to talk about that will kind of fill in. You can talk about it, just don't talk about it all the time. So I don't mind that GWS did this because it gives us something to talk about in between to take us away from, well, I think this, and this is going to happen in the finals. I mean, there's still a full week. We got a full week to get by before we even should be talking about it. So I didn't mind that the GWS hire here. I think it was actually very well done, and the timing was absolutely brilliant.
Right, really doing us, people like us, a bit of a favor, whether it's us trying to find something to talk about or us trying to consume in any bit of media where it isn't just finals. But this is something that we'll be talking about. Some of the implications from this is I want to get the advice. We'll bring this back up next week, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to get the words and thoughts from our very, very special guest, who definitely will might have a little bit more insight to this one, especially being a player in the league. See, if we're getting closer, we're going to see what happens here, especially if you picked up some of the hints from last week. But I think I'm just I am looking forward to. I think that, especially being a GWS fan, the things I'm holding on to the most is just how well regarded this guy is. First things first, I just want a respectable coach leading the club. That's one thing. And everything I've heard, there's not a whole lot of controversy with this guy. He has a finals and grand final pedigree. He has a background that he's been with some of the best players. He's been on some of the best teams. He knows what the hell he's talking about. He has the experience. And so that's something I'll take, especially with a fairly young and inexperienced team that a lot of these players are. I like this. I think it's something that we could develop under. I'm showing a hard sense of optimism right now because I don't really have a whole much else going for me as a GWS fan. So we'll see if this optimism is going to be warranted. But nonetheless, I'm excited to see what Kingsley is able to bring to this club. Not the worst pick they could have done. And apparently it might be the best one out there. Only time will tell with this one, especially when we get to maybe preseason footy and just give it about another 9 months until we get to a game of regular season games. So we're going to see what happens. But we're going to hop into here, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to I believe Coach Donnie's team of the round for round 23, and just another. Heads up is that we are going to be getting his team of the year going on, his all-Australian team, excuse me. I know we had to be very specific with the lingo we use when talking about Australian footy because that's the world we live in, especially we Americans. There's my dig at you guys. Have fun in the comment section. I love you. I can't wait for the playoffs to start next week, Donnie. Hopefully the officials don't ruin it for us fans. I hit a few things there.
I can feel the hate in the comment section already.
Wow, I wonder how good Melbourne is going to be next week too. This is fun. I love you guys. It's so easy to take the mick out of you, but it's also so easy to take the mick out of us. We're just going to take the mick out of everyone, and especially because we're going to we have fun. That's what we do. Aussie's known for the banter, and I've definitely had to fight back a little bit more, I think we'll say, over this last year or so. But it's time for What the Blank, ladies and gentlemen. For those that don't know how this segment works, we say what the blank to a number of things that happen from the week. And we have a few specific topics we're going to talk about. Some we've already hinted at, and one that haven't really talked about, at least I haven't hinted as much, so we're going to get to that one in just a second. But what the blank? I got 3 statements for Coach Donnie, and each of them have a blank at either the beginning, the middle, or the end. It's up to him to fill in the blank with whatever he chooses. Could be a word, it could be a number, it could be a phrase, could be an entire essay. I do not care. It's completely up to him. It's up to you guys as well for what you're going to fill in with your answers. Feel free to join alongside wherever you're listening to, whether you're tuning in, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, watch us over on YouTube, Rumble, or anywhere else you get any kind of shows like this, because we're essentially everywhere. But those are really the only 3 platforms that matter and anyone uses. Because if you use, I've yet to meet someone that uses Google Podcasts. I just don't think that's really a thing. Am I? Like if you use Google Podcasts,
I haven't seen it, but I know it's out there, and it's one of those.
But I know some of you guys are listening to this on Google Podcasts. I have the analytics. I'm just calling you out. Apparently, please don't stop listening. We do appreciate the support there, no matter what platform you're on. Because hell, it doesn't matter. A view's a view in my book. But we're going to start things off, Donnie, with the statement number 1 is blank was the biggest loser of any winning teams this round.
Oh boy. This is one of those biggest loser of the winning teams.
Yeah.
I kind of previewed a little bit of my headlines. Many would say Fremantle and Sydney would be the 2 teams because they were playing teams outside of the 8 non-finals teams, and they both were within 3 goals. So you would probably say that, just because if you look at just it puts doubt into both fan bases' minds whether they're going into the finals in good form or not. Again, I stated my opinion on St. Kilda. I think GWS came out and they went for it. And Fremantle originally they got they got beat up a little bit, and then they
The first quarter gave me so much hope.
Yep. So it's one of those where
Bastards.
if you force me to choose one or the other, I'd probably pick Fremantle because GWS has been further down. But I think they're relatively both even, just because of the fact that, again, it put a lot of doubt into both supporter bases on whether they were going into the finals in good form or not.
Yeah, I guess out of anyone, probably be Frio. I mean, how are you going to get scared by the GWS? No one's scared of them, except maybe West Coast. But hell, even that game is probably very competitive at this point. You know what? Like I said, really though, at least it's over. Don't have to worry about them sucking for another season.
Now you can just enjoy the footy.
Exactly. So it's a clear mind, and now I can just root for. I still think this is so funny. This is bad because they're rivals. One of the best and honestly one of the more exciting rivalries we've seen as of late. But maybe it's because you're in my co-host here. Maybe it's because I was so right about them last year and still riding with that. I root for Sydney. It seems so blasphemous as a GWS supporter, but hell, it is what it is. It also doesn't hurt that you have Buddy Franklin, who's definitely one of my favorite players. Dude's amazing. He's so excited, and it's going to be a shame when apparently he's not going to be playing for Sydney. Apparently, I mean, if we want to just go on tangent real quick, I wonder if that probably wasn't the full truth, given how no one's talked about that since the news first broke, like a handful of rounds ago, that Buddy Franklin was leaving the Swans at the end of the season. So it goes to show you possibly the credibility of that report, that literally no one's talking about that. Well, I just thought that was funny.
I think the legitimacy of it kind of went out the board too, when they asked Tom Harley from the Swans, and he said it was news to him, which Tom Harley is very good at communicating with the players and everything like that. So I agree with what Horace Longmire said eventually, is I don't think he bought a house in the Gold Coast as a house to move to play footy. I think he bought it as a retirement home. So I think
retirement home, man. Good for him.
Honestly, I think the most likely outcome is he either plays one more season as the Swans. They'll eventually get it done. I think there's enough trust between the two. They'll eventually get something that's both beneficial for both parties, or he's going to retire. And I've had some people, I've put up the question. I go, if the Swans somehow win a flag, Buddy going out with his 1,000th goal on a flag in one season, man, you can't ask for it. You can't ask for it anything better. I don't think he needs to put his body through anymore. If he gets one more flag at Sydney, the 9-year contract will have been worth it, as some people would say, because they get a flag. If he goes off into the sunset, I will thank him. I will thank him as much as I possibly can, because he's been a great stalwart of the club for 9 years. Again, some of those he wasn't always playing footy, but what he did for the Swans was absolutely fantastic.
Of course.
But there is a part of me that goes, if the Swans don't win a flag, I think he's back next year, because I think he sees the core that's being built and everything that's done with Sydney. I think he's gonna, and this is all due respect to Brisbane, which was the team that they were talking about. I think Sydney is closer to a flag than Brisbane is, and I know that's controversial for some people. I think Sydney's
not
closer.
Controversial for me. Ugh. Or anyone with a half a brain, apparently, or not a Brisbane supporter. Or maybe those two kind of go hand in hand. There's my shot at Brisbane this round. I apparently
just trying to offend everybody at this point.
I think so. Well, if I offend everyone, then it's okay, right? So I'm just going to do my best. Here, let me just find a random team. I'm going to insult them real quick. St. Kilda, you're inconsistent. You suck. There we go. Now on to the next statement.
That's just the truth. That's just the truth. All due respect to the St. Kilda fans.
I guess that's not dig. Poor guys. And there's Donnie's dig for you guys as well. All due respect, but disrespectfully. And speaking about a team that's disrespectful, let's go into statement number 2, because Essendon can blink to change the perspective of the organization.
It'll never happen, but I think everybody on the freaking board should be thrown out, because I think the board has screwed this entire club for years to come. Like, and I think
it's very impressive, by the way. very impressive how quickly
impressively
they made everyone
bad.
hate
Yes,
them. Yeah,
there's nothing positive that has come. There is nothing positive that has come from this. Not a thing. And
you
the
know what,
fact
Donnie?
that
I am positive that their board is a bunch of schmucks. That's the only thing I got going right now.
that's about the only thing positive from someone come. And again, I have many friends that are Essendon supporters, and I feel bad for them because there's nothing. There's nothing that they can do, and I'll broach this subject really quickly, and it's the last I want to talk about it. the whole Herd coming back to be the coach is ridiculous to me because Herd was part of the whole supplement scandal, which I don't know if you've dove into that, which is one of the reasons why I think Essendon is in the you know what hole that it is in currently. Because honestly, I don't see how bringing back something that really was such a blotch on Essendon's history is a good idea. I understand that Hurdy was a great player. I understand that. But right now, you need stability and you need consistency. You don't need a flash-in-the-pan guy that has less than 2 years of coaching AFL experience altogether. Like, legitimately don't understand it. Like, I understand Essendon wants to keep everything in-house. They want Essendon guys. I mean, it's kind of like collegiate football over here sometimes, is that you got to get a Notre Dame guy to go to coach Notre Dame. Well, sometimes there's not a good Notre Dame guy to coach Notre Dame. So I don't like that you have to stay in kind of the Essendon wheelhouse. If you got to go outside to get the best possible candidate, go outside.
Yep.
And the worst part is that, and then their new president comes out and totally steps on his own tongue by saying, we want an experienced coach. Well, what the heck do you mean by that? Are you talking a coach that's previously worked? Because if so, you've limited your coaching total candidates down to about 2, maybe 3, and neither of them want the job. Ross Lyon has already said, no, I don't want the Essendon job. And Nathan Buckley says, I'm happy with media. I'm not going back to coaching. Bye-bye. There's your two best candidates gone. Not a chance. What are you going to do? How are you going to get an experienced coach if there's no experienced coach there? I mean, you literally screwed yourself by saying that. It is, I cannot believe how many times Essendon can find a way to bugger it up more than they already have. And they keep getting hold my beer moments and doing more.
It's at the point where, like, I'm so lucky that I'm not an Essendon supporter. So, like, really, this doesn't affect me. If anything, it affects me positively because it gives us more content to talk about. But also, which is great because they're a machine at doing like. So, I as a content maker. Is a content creator there? That's a fancy word. Next, I'm be an influencer, you guys. Oh, you like that? The only way I can influence you guys is making me influencing you to hate me, given the lingo that I sometimes throw at you guys to purposely do that. So a win's a win. But I have genuinely enjoyed this. Not just because I feel horrible for Truck, feel horrible for the people involved in this. Like I said, I feel for the fans, I feel for the club, I feel for the players. But at the same time, selfishly albeit, it's been so entertaining to watch. You cannot write reality TV that's more entertaining than this, Donnie. Damn it, this has been so much fun to watch. And just every single news tweet that pops up regarding Essendon just makes me laugh. Like, how can I be mad at that? I have to be thankful for that. We're there. Dude. Also, thank you for them, because as they would use it for a thumbnail and a headline saying Essendon biffed this, essentially, and got us, one of the most viewed AFL segments of the entire year. So thank you guys, by the way. Essendon, you guys we got
called footy prophets in one of the YouTube comments things. We got called footy prophets, and I laughed about that a little bit because I kind of called it, but no, it's
the coin of destiny, Donnie. The coin of destiny.
This whole situation, and I love this summary because it is kind of perfect. I said it's a car crash. You don't want to look, but you just gotta. And I think that is literally this is literally the way this is. This is a car crash on the highway. You don't want to look. You really try, but you just gotta look, and it's that's
gotta,
kind of the part that's really
one of these
most mind blowing.
And one thing, Donnie, before we get to segment number 3, all right, the coin of destiny was very successful last week, determining that it was indeed Clarko going to North Melbourne. Of course, Donnie called that too, but he's besides the point. We're talking about the coin here. Coin of destiny. We're going to see again, Donnie. Will Essendon be able to redeem themselves as a club? Heads, yes. Tails, no. It's tails. It's tails.
Oh no.
The coin is spoken. Essendon will always be horrible.
Oh boy.
Doomed for an eternity of bad footing. Oh, that's amazing. I was hoping it was going to be tails. Oh, thank you, coin. You're amazing.
There's Essendon fans turning off the episode right
Don't
now.
Get mad at us.
You flogs.
Bring it up with the coin. The coin is spoken. The coin has never done anything wrong. It is only 1 for 1, by the way. But 100%, Donnie, the coin has always been right.
Got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Oh, boy. And speaking about what the coin was right about last week, let's go into segment number 3, because it's going to take blank years for Clarko to make it back to finals footy.
I think
for your contract, it's going to take anything.
I think it depends on how he handles this first off season. Does he throw a little bit of the kitchen sink and bring in 2 or 3 veterans, or does he kind of trust a process of working a young group together? Like I think if he throws a few veterans at it quickly to try to kind of progress it, I think it's 2 to 3. I think if he doesn't, I think if he goes slow with it, it could take the entire contract. But I think if he shows success, I wouldn't be surprised if he extends it. Clarko is meticulous enough. I think he can coach for a long period of time. He doesn't get super stressed. He doesn't take it too overly aggressive. So I'm one of those. I want to see how his off season goes. I'll state it like this: off season brings in several veterans. I think finals in 2 to 3 years max. And I mean max. I mean, I don't think it's next year. I still think there's some hiccups that are going to happen. His first season's going to be rough, but I think they're going to be much more competitive. I think they're going to be much more disciplined. Oh, and no long sleeve jumpers too. That's the other thing that I found fascinating. Is North Melbourne.
Really? He made a rule about that?
He has a rule when he is at Hawthorn that there's no long sleeve jumpers. Absolutely no long sleeve jumpers. So Hugh Greenwood might be in a little bit of strife because he doesn't get to wear his nice beloved long sleeve jumper.
Hugh Greenwood requests a trade from North Melbourne.
So we'll see. Like I said, I want to see if he doesn't bring in veterans, if they go to the draft, if they go young, if they go with the club the way it is, kind of with a few changes, then I think it takes the entire full contract before he starts sniffing finals. And I know that's weird to say because everybody's like the messiah that is Alistair Clarkson. He's going to go through some bumps. I don't think they're 18th next year. I think they're more competitive. I think they win a couple of games, but I still don't see
15th.
Exactly. Yeah. I think 15th, 14th. I think they're going to step ladder the ladder. I mean, pardon the pun there. I think they're going to step ladder it. That each season is going to progress from it. So like I said, in 3 to 4 years, I think they're going to be in that 8, 9 bracket to where finals is a possibility because Geelong is not going to be able to maintain this. They're going to have some veterans that I think they're going to fall back to the pack. West Coast, I think they're going to stay where they kind of are. I want to see what Brisbane does in some of their aging veterans. Richmond, Collingwood, and what was the last team I was thinking of? I guess the Western Bulldogs. They're starting to get older lists. So in those 3 to 4 years, it's going to change. Some of the teams that are in the finals, they're going to fall back to the mean. So we will see. So it'll be very interesting in the next 5 to 6 years. We could see teams like Sydney, Fremantle, North, Gold Coast could be all in finals contention, where some of the teams that have been fighting in finals may find themselves outside. So yeah, I think aggressive 2 to 3, not aggressive, 3 to 4, if not even a new contract before he sees finals.
He's not going to totally change everything, but definitely he's definitely a step in the right direction.
He can try. It's just going to take forever to do it.
Right. The thing is, so I think Clarko does guarantee them one thing, and that is they will not be back to back wooden spoon winners. So I know it's a low bar, but that's probably the highest thing we'll say for North Melbourne over the last few years. So good luck to you guys for getting out of the basement, because you probably will. And West Coast, watch out. Hawthorn, possibly watch out. Essendon. Oh, you're not too far away from there either. In GWS, help. Yeah, watch out, you guys too, because oh boy. But that's going to wrap it for What the Blank. And one thing we're going to leave it. Let us know your thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comments over on YouTube. Like I said, hit us up over our socials. Your answers to these. How long does it take Clarko to get back to finals footy? What can Essendon do to change the perspective around their club? And who was the biggest loser of any winning teams this round? But before we give you guys a little bit of cheer on the top to cap things off with, it's time for Coach Johnny's Team of the Round. Take it away for the last team we're going to get for the regular season in just a week before we get to an all-Australian team. That's probably going to piss people off, because every list pisses people off. Let's be honest.
I'm not going to try to piss people off. I'm going to
don't do it intentionally, but people just get pissed.
Well, as I stated last year, and I meant this, I'm going to put guys in the positions that they actually are. So Christian Petrarca, if he's going to get in, he's going to get in as a midfielder, not a forward. I know he's gone forward, but 80% of his time has been in the midfield. If he's going to get in, he's going to get in the midfield. If he doesn't get in, it's because there were midfielders that were better than him. I'm going to put wingers in there. So there's going to be 2 wingers. I know the travesty that is getting 2 wingers in there. So there's going to be some guys that are not in, that are in the All-Australian team, that are not in my team, because I don't fall for this. I hate this argument of, but you have to put it. No, you don't. You don't have to put them in. You put guys in that are actually going to play that position. If they don't play in that position, they can't be in. I know it's a foreign thing. Heaven forbid we not put 8 midfielders on the field, because we got to get midfield. We got to get these guys in. No, I'm going to put 6 forwards, guys that mostly play forward. 6 defenders, guys that mostly play defense. 6 midfielders, so on and so forth. I always do 2 rucks, and then I always do a defender, a midfielder, and a forward on the bench. So that's my 22. It'll be 7 forwards, 7 defensemen, 6 midfielders, 2 rucks. It's always it's the same thing as I do with my team of the round. But I'm basically going to go 2 wings, which I don't do in my team of the week, which is, I know some people are going to be like, you don't do it in your team of the week, coach. I know, because it's team of the week. I just put a team together. I don't structure it. The All-Australian team, I can do that because that's how I like to do it. So there will be 2 wings, so on and so forth. So here we go. Team of the week, round 23, last one of the year. And I think this was a pretty darn good team to put together. Start off on the defense. They may have had a shit season, but this gentleman has had a great season. In my opinion, he's going to be really close to my All-Australian teams. GWS is Sam Taylor. An incredible game. Played really, really well in this game against Fremantle. He didn't have the monster full forward that he has had weeks before, but he still played a really good game. Also in that game, Fremantle's Hayden Young, who I think is another one I think is going to be in that halfback, the contention for that halfback line for me. A pleasantly good game from North's Aiden Core. Again, North was constantly being swarmed in the back, so his statistics and how he played, I think, really were affected by that, but he still played a really good game. Another guy in the halfback contention for All-Australian, Richmond's Daniel Rioli. His move back to halfback has been a blessing in disguise for this young man. I think it's really rocketed his career. He looks absolutely fantastic. And the last 2 guys are 2 guys I think will probably find themselves in my team of this team, my All-Australian team of the year. Carlton's Sam Doherty and St. Kilda's Jack Sinclair both have had incredible seasons. big impacts in both of their games. Sinclair found a way out of the Ryan Clark trap out of Sydney and really gave Sydney a lot of headaches in that game there. Ruck, big old Toby Nankervis. I'm going to give you a shout out, young man. You played an incredible game of footy for Richmond. Again, Richmond looks really, really good as the season goes on, and we'll see what type of impact the big Nank makes in the middle for Richmond going up against Brisbane. We jump to the Middies. A lot of 2-goal kickers in this Middies this week, so it was very easy to break it down. Brisbane's Hugh McCluggage, great game again. Yes, they get absolutely smashed with McCluggage with a good game. Melbourne's Christian Petrarca in the midfield. Again, yes, he's been going forward a little bit more, but he still plays a good chunk of midfield time, so I'm going to tuck him in there. A guy I really have pegged as a potential Brownlow medalist this year, Fremantle's Andrew Brayshaw. I still think he doesn't have too many guys that are going to take votes off of him. They're winning games. They had that lull in the middle, so we'll see how polling goes. It'll be fantastic to see. But Brayshaw, another great game. Port Adelaide's Connor Rosie, another great game. 35 disposals, absolutely everywhere in this game. Absolutely fantastic. And just a little, I think he was one of the reasons why I found a way to win my fantasy league. He was my captain, so he put up 288 points in that particular game. Go me. Dude. All right. Carlton's Adam Chera, and I know some people are going to go, Coach, but Cripps played so well. Cripps had 35 disposals, but he had no scoreboard impact. So Chera kicks 2 goals and keeps them in that game. So I'm not always about the total disposals. I want to see impact on the scoreboard and how they do overall in the game. The only one that's pretty obvious the way I do it, it's always pretty much how it is who kicks the most goals. Forward, here we go. Great to see Alex Sexton from the Gold Coast Suns back, kick 6 this week. An absolutely incredible performance by him. I think he finds himself out of the Gold Coast. I think he goes and finds himself a place where he can really, really flourish. Geelong's Tom Hawkins and Tyson Stengel both kick 4 goals in the game. Both have over 15 disposals, so hard not to put both of these gentlemen in, but when you play the West Coast Eagles, you probably should put up some big numbers. Richmond's Tom Lynch, as like I said, his last month and a half has been absolutely fantastic. I think it's the reason he's in discussions for All-Australian. I'm not so high on him. I think he's had some opponents that have been right for the picking for him. Let's see how he does in the finals. Brisbane may not be the toughest opponents, but as he starts facing better defenses, let's see if he can continue his hot streak. Port's Todd Marshall. Though many people talked about Robbie Gray, Todd Marshall had an incredible game in this game. It really was one of the reasons why Port was able to smash the Crows in the showdown. And last but not least, I watched it personally, a bounce-back game for Big Max King of the Saints, kill the Saints, kicking 5 goals against the Swans, even in a losing effort. On the bench, defender Stephen May, got to give him, again, incredible game. Not as much pressure on him as some games before, but still 20 disposals, incredible game. Richmond's turnkey, in my opinion, and that's Dion Prestia, right, as the midfielder on the bench. Ruck is Geelong's Mark Blitzhouse. Again, this Swiss Army knife of the Geelong Cats has been absolutely incredible, and his backup at the ruck position was absolutely fantastic. And last but not least, forward, Melbourne's Keziah Pickett with another incredible game, helping smash the Brisbane Lions. And that is the final team of the round for this season. Again, my All-Australian team will come out on the day of our season preview. So anybody that's on here in the comment section, if there is somebody that you think absolutely needs to be in my team of the week, put it down in the comment section, and we'll see how many suggestions find their way into my All-Australian season, All-Australian team of this particular 2022 season.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say that it's just been a fantastic regular season, and it's been so great to have you guys around for these last 23 rounds of footy. Even going back before that, when we're doing draft breakdowns, when we're doing preseason predictions, you guys have been there, and you guys have been killing it this season. Genuinely, really appreciate you guys, whether you're ones I've been listening since last season, the season before, or if you're just now stumbling upon us. I really appreciate any bit of support you guys have shown us at all, because you guys have really allowed us to take over the the footy world, especially among American media sources as well. You guys have been tremendous with that, and I'm just super excited. I just gotta give a thank you before we head to the finals. Of course, this is not the last you're going to hear from us this season, and hell, even the off season, you're going to hate us with how much we're going to be talking. But I feel like you already, if you're going to do that, I feel like you already do now. Not because of Donnie, but because of me, of course, because you got a brash American coming on. You know what? I play my role well. I know who I am. I know what I am. And I stick to it. But that's apparently you guys like it well enough because we're approaching 1,150 subscribers over on YouTube. And most of them is because you footy fans. Most of them is because you've been catching us over on our podcast, Spotify podcast, or because you've been so tremendous over on YouTube. And you guys are just freaking awesome. And I really do love all you guys. But last things first. We're going to end the show here, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to do it by Donnie. In one word or phrase, what was the most regular thing about the regular season?
The most regular season. I got to do it. I can't not. Regular. The pissing, bitching, and the sooking and the whinging about umpire calls. I can't not go for it. It is regular. It is consistent. I don't mind it. Again, I don't do it, but it is gold to watch Twitter after every single game to see the whinging and the sooking about how their team got screwed when it comes to calls from the team that lost and the team that won's going, sucked in. And so so I got to say that regular season, it is regular. The social media just outrage is absolutely amazing. I crack up all the time, no matter what. There's one fan base that has got their underwear in a twist during it, and it is absolute social media gold. Again, I'm not making fun of the people, but it is absolutely social media gold to watch it because it is just fireworks. It is gold.
I was, especially for me, I was kind of thinking that might happen, but I was almost thinking like, oh, that was super exciting that there's consistently good footy. But that also we get the answer that you guys might hate, you might love, but you cannot deny that you guys like to bitch at the umpires. I sometimes do. Most of the time I don't, just because I don't really have anything to bitch about besides just being horrible. And the refs aren't going to change that, or the umpires, aren't going to change that one bit. So it just kind of is what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking in till the end. And especially for those that stuck till the end, you get the full hint will be revealed. It's no longer a hint. We're just telling you that. Also, let us know if you guessed that, because there's a good chance you might have, especially after my slip up at the end of last week's show. But for our finals preview that drops next week, none other than former guest on Donnie's Disposal was a two-time premiership winner. Jude Bolton, former player for the Sydney Swans, is going to be joining us for our finals preview, and I am so excited about this one because I love Donnie's interview with him. Of course, if you haven't checked that one, then go ahead, do yourself a favor and do that over on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Go ahead, check out that interview. But also, I loved it, and now I just really appreciate Jude is a person, is a player, is an analyst. And so I'm excited to be able to bring some questions to him myself that I want to ask, especially when it relates to the Sydney Swans and how, I'm just going to tell you right now, a little bit of a preview for me when it comes to next week's finals, how the Sydney Swans are going to be your 2022 grand final winners. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. And, oh boy, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a party, and I can't wait to talk about that. But Donnie, thank you so much for joining us today. Always love you. And I'm just glad that we got footy in our lives, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you so much for tuning in. You better believe you're going to have to tune in next week. And we'll see you in the week of finals. Catch you later. All right, there we go.